Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and smegheads everywhere, and welcome to the first podcast by the Square-Eyed Syndromes team called Smug Mode, going specifically into Red Dwarf. As always, we are joined by Ben Gilman.
Hi.
And Troy Salmon.
Hey, what's up?
And I'm Tom. So, all three of us are massive Red Dwarf fans, and we decided to do this as kind of a supplemental to the main show that we do. Red Dwarf is a sci-fi comedy that started in sort of the mid to late 80s. It was originally commissioned in about 85, 86, and the first series came out in 88, and it's run on and off for the next 32 years, really. So the idea of this podcast is for us to go through every single episode, not doing a massive breakdown of it, but just discussing each episode in order from Series 1, Episode 1, all the way through. And sorry?
You could say we're about to activate Smug Mode. Yes, I have been sitting on that joke for a week.
Oh dear.
Oh my goodness. It's only begun, guys.
Have you now got that out of your system?
You picked the. I don't know what you're talking about, Troy. You're the idiot that picked the bloody name of it.
Exactly. You got to put it in, but you got to slide it in there. You can't just attack it like that.
Hello, sex tips with Troy. Yeah, la. Sorry.
Go on, Tom.
Okay.
Before John Barrowman over here continues. Right, no.
That's all right. Don't worry about it, boys. Right. So today, this being the first episode, we're starting obviously with Season 1, Episode 1. I'll give you a quick overview of the story. Basically, it's set on a mining ship. There's about 1,069 staff, and the two lowest on it are Arnold Rimmer and Dave Lister, who are going to be the main characters of the whole show. And they are second and third technicians. They are the lowest of the low. Even the Scutties, which are little robots, are technically higher on the pecking order than these two. Rimmer is basically a little Hitler. His favourite people in the world are Napoleon. He has a subscription to Dictator Monthly. He's that kind of person, and the only person he has any authority over is Lister, and he's made 180 reports about him in sort of the last month. This guy, basically Lister is a slob, doesn't care. He left his job as a shopping trolley collector because he didn't want to get tied down to a career after 10 years. And so he's smuggled
Reach for the stars, as Gustav 7 once said. Reach for the fuck.
He's smuggled a cat on board, and for this, he gets put into stasis, which means he's not going to get paid for the next 18 months of the trip, and he will be in suspended animation and will not age.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Rimmer then has to fix a drive plate and kills the whole crew. And there is a radiation leak that means that Lister, rather than staying in animation for 18 months, ends up being there for 3 million years. And basically, the story comes back that when he comes out of suspended animation, the only people on the ship are him, the ship's computer called Holly, who's gone a bit crazy because he's been with his own company for 3 million years, and Rimmer, who's been brought back as a hologram, which is just purely made of light and cannot touch anything. And then you later in the first episode, we come across another character called the Cat, which has literally, over the 3 million years and the radiation, the cat that Lister brought on that was pregnant when he brought it into the ship has basically spawned an entire race of cats. So that's the basic premise of episode 1. What do you think, boys?
And also there's a fourth member, but he won't be a regular until season 3. Yeah.
He doesn't appear in episode 1 though.
We do not. Yeah, we're not going to talk about it.
He appears in episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah, I know. Let's not get derailed already. We're terrible with this.
Don't get me wrong, great character, but right now irrelevant.
A bit too far away,
For at least 12 weeks, anyway. 3 months time. Not the knockoff season 2 guy. Anyway, but we'll get there.
He was great, but let's not get into.
Let's try and be professional for once and keep on the slope, so to speak.
And the funny thing about Rimmer though, He's always taking Rick out of Lister the entire time. Like,
They're
literally.
already bitching at each other from the word go.
Literally. They don't.
Yeah.
And he always
true.
takes his part, and as well, he's always got his writing on his arm. He's trying to do tests, and he can't pass a test in his life.
Even does a very Nazi-looking salute. I know he woofed it.
Oh, yeah.
You never noticed. Even my wife's this. That little arm salute in the air, it's so Nazi.
It's a handspin. The handspin kills me all the time.
It's just,
What was
So
it he
much-
put on his test? I am a fish. 500 times.
Yeah, and he collapses.
It's another name of the podcast. I am a fish, but we.
Oh gosh. Well, the best parts of the episode, though, episode 1, oh my days, when he's taking the test. And literally, all the writing that he's got over his entire body.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, it's all smudged.
remember, it rubs off. He helps it off. It rubs off. I was dying.
One of the best ones already is the B2 and the B4 pencil. He can
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Oh, yeah.
And what's that? Are you smoking a cigarette? No, it's a chicken. It's just so simple. It's
Oh, God.
just they're already winding each other up, and not to spoil it, but these two are the main backbone of the show. Their relationship
They are.
always, especially in the first 2 seasons, it's very important.
Yeah.
They come back to this quite regularly. These two, because without one or the other, it doesn't work. Red Dwarf, I don't think, as well.
No,
I mean,
it doesn't.
One of the big things from this sort of first series in particular, I mean, all of these guys are now very close friends. I mean, they're really close-knit group.
Yeah.
But Chris Barry and Craig Charles really didn't like each other.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that, yeah.
On the first season. Because Craig Charles had not been an actor to this point. He was a punk poet. So he was kind of a stand-up comedian poet, and he was quite edgy and things like that. Chris Barry had done mainly voiceover work. He was kind of a behind-the-scenes guy, working for Spitting Image, things like that, but he was well respected.
Yeah.
And the two of them didn't know each other, and the two of them just, real clash of personalities apparently initially, which they got over in the end, and they worked well together. But they had that little bit of edge to those characters because they genuinely didn't like each other during that first series.
I have a question for you.
Yep.
Because, like, I kind of think it's a shame we don't spend more time with Lister and his friends.
Yeah.
Because
they appear more than you think they do in that first series.
do. But the one with the coin where he's like an intelligence test.
Oh god, yeah.
It's brilliant. I mean, it's just fantastic, and it's just
Mark. I can never remember his surname from the Fast Show.
Yeah.
Playing Peterson, yeah.
But the great thing about it is this first episode has to do a lot of heavy lifting, and it does it really well.
Well, yeah, because it's setting up
now.
the story.
Yeah.
Because you need to set up the relationship between Rimmer and Lister.
Yeah.
You need to set up the fact that Lister is massively popular with other officers on the. It's just really Rimmer who can't stand him.
Yeah, Rimmer literally has no friends.
Yeah. It's also got to you've got to bring in that love interest with Kachansky as well. So there's a whole load of storytelling you have to do in that first episode.
Yeah. They did it really well. It was so it was so quick. They did it well. Yeah.
I mean, even like we've already gone ahead and watched the episode 2 for next week, but you already see certain things that come back later and later and later. Like especially next week's episode, that sets up even now the Promised Land. For example, the latest episode, we're not going to get into it, but you talked about it the other week, Tom, on our regular podcast.
Yeah, which is when they brought the cats back for the first
time. And you hear
time.
about him listed as stupid. Well, I can't remember the name of it.
Cloister the Stupid, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
You can already see that. Like, I'm thinking, like, oh my God, by the time we get to the Promised Land, they're going to go there. You know, it's like they're setting stuff up.
So we have to go to Fiji.
Fiji.
Down to Fiji. That's the only place we want to go. Whether it was a sheep, a horse.
There's another thing.
A sheep and a cow and 3 horses.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then I just love him as I'm gonna go back. He does his little Yorkshire accent.
That's Fiji.
Morning, Farmer Jim. Morning, Farmer.
I think
Mister.
next
How
week's
are you doing
episode's
today?
better, but we'll get to that. I'm keeping all the stuff. I've noticed a lot of different things. Like, for example, the canister that they launch the dead technician off, the Welsh one.
Was it George McIntyre?
Yeah, it has Welsh flag on it. You never noticed that before. I've seen this episode about 100 times.
Yeah. Well, the thing that got me right is I've got all of every Red Dwarf episode on DVD. But
They've
I've
changed the
recently,
audio
for
on.
ease, when I was rewatching the first couple of episodes, I watched it on Netflix.
They've changed the audio. I've
But
noticed they've changed the song.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They've changed the music because it was.
See you later, alligator. That one's been taken away.
And now it's here we go, here we go, here we go. Yeah.
Oh yeah, have you changed it? Because literally the one I watch is the original cut.
Yeah,
version.
they have. They've
Well,
Netflix have refused to pay for the song.
So now it's just literally a whole lot of people going, here we go, here we
It's
go.
Oh wow, that's terrible.
I think it's funnier though.
It's actually quite funny.
That's here we go, here we go, here we go.
Because my wife, I reacted to it. My wife was like, "What's happening?" I was like, "Well, they've changed the goddamn song on the Netflix version. Because I know it's my funeral song. See you later, alligator. See you in a while, I'll crack it out. It's like so long, oh, good night.
Bye-bye.
That's the song I want at my funeral. It's a cheeky bye bye. And it will put a smile on people's face. So I immediately heard, "Here we go, here we go, here we go."
Oh god, that version will be funny.
We're Red Dwarf hardcore here, aren't we? The three of us.
That's if you're mental.
I have watched this first season. In Red Dwarf fandom, the first season, second season are considered not as good as 3 to 6. But I'm telling you what, they are underrated seasons. They are still
Absolutely.
The world building, isn't it? You need the world building. Start off.
Yeah, but also on top of that, you've got to remember that actually, and I'm being maybe slightly harsh here, but the sci-fi effects for a TV budget in 1986, 87 was not going to be high, and yet they were having him walking through people. They had two people. They had now it's quite easy with green screens to have like two people in the same shot, the same person acting two different roles. But in those days, it was a lot of work.
Exactly. You could tell.
The fact that it looks as smooth as it does is a credit to just how hard they worked at it.
It's true. As a person who does VFX, I respect the heck out of him. Trust me, I respect it.
Yeah.
You've got to mention the title, The End.
Yeah. The end, at the end, and the finishing goal is the beginning.
You always get the episodes for going forward. So we're on the end. I love the bit where it's like, I think now everyone knows, because like I alluded to earlier, when Lister comes out of stasis.
Yep.
Everyone's dead, Dave.
Everybody's dead, Dave.
He's dead, Dave.
It's just a running gag for like a minute. It's just one of the first gags.
It's the fact that there's all these little piles of dust, and every now and then he's kind of putting some in his mouth and stuff.
And he doesn't make a big deal out of it. He's just doing it.
And why is it so dusty?
That's so dusty in here. So dusty.
Dusty. What's this? What's all this white powder?
Yeah. That is Second Officer Lieutenant Peterson.
I didn't recognize. And who's that over there? Rimmer. I didn't recognize him without his notebook.
I love when he's a hologram. He's got the H on his head. And he's just like trying to grab the notebook and he realizes you can't hold it anymore.
Yeah, I'll remember it.
Yeah, I can't remember it, man.
Because they do eventually. Lister does ask Holly why Rimmer, and he said it's just to keep you company.
The best person to keep you sane.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going into another episode now, but it was something about. He asked why it couldn't be Kachansky, and he said your entire conversation was 184 words, whereas with Rimmer, more than 4,000 words. And he says, yeah, but 2,000 of those were me telling him to smeg off, and then the other 2,000 were him putting me on report for telling him to smeg off.
What about Cat? Because
Frankenstein.
My wife's the cat gave a good acting performance as well. The cat just looked really cute.
Like I said, all three of these actors, none of them were kind of sitcom actors. Danny John Jules was a song and dance man.
Yeah.
Craig Charles was a poet, and Chris Barry was more of a voiceover guy. So,
But 1988, this is ahead of its time. To the main cast of Black. It's a very progressive show. I always remembered it and I'm not being rude. Not many sci-fi comedy. This is way before Futurama and
sci-fi comedy. Well, this is the thing. This was originally commissioned like back in '85, and the BBC said, you can't write a sci-fi comedy. It can't be done."
Yeah, exactly.
So initially, that's why it just sat on the cutting room floor, because they said it's not doable. And then it was there was something to do with some leftover time because of a show that they'd planned to do a second series of, and then it never happened.
yeah.
And I think it was BBC North said, "Well, let's film this Red Dwarf thing and see what happens."
Ah, okay.
So there was a bit of luck involved in all of it as well.
So use some leftover stuff from like other sets and that.
But we also got the first look at
Yeah.
the Scutters.
Yeah.
They will become really funny in later episodes. There's a particular my favourite bit next week, but we'll get to that. You know the one where, yeah, I'm not going to get into. There's a nice scene with Lister next week, which we'll get into next week.
There's lots
but
of
the cat
the second. I've said this before, but the second episode of series 1
is a
is
banger.
in my mind the best of the first series.
It's amazing how next week it just because like first season's never that smooth. For a second episode, I've never seen such a good second episode in any new series ever. It's ridiculously good. But we're going to.
We'll get to that. Yeah. I mean,
God, next week is a 5-star dick sucking contest for that episode. We're just going to be.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Yes, thank you.
So I'm trying to get to the cat because we haven't spoken about him yet.
Sure, yeah.
He just arrived. I'm also putting in my wife's reactions to this for the first time because she's seeing this for the first time, and she thought he was a completely different character at first. She didn't think he fitted in the show.
Well, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, that's the whole point. You so much looking like dressed like Pink Panther.
I like the fact that he sprays things to own them like a real cat. That's just.
I'm claiming all this as mine.
I'm dangerous. Moving like James Brown.
I wish about his suits as well.
Wait, how am I looking?
I'm looking nice. My shirt is looking nice. Also, can we just talk about? We're going to have to talk about the cat's wardrobe as we go because the man has got very good start. 1988, hot pink salmon to start with.
Yes. Well, that's a running gag throughout the entirety of Red Dwarf. He's possibly the most shallow creature in the history of anything.
There's a good thing. There is a good thing next week with a episode. We'll get to that. He was on form next week. Next week is a strong episode. It's ridiculously good.
Well, actually, one of the weird things, because I was watching a documentary about Red Dwarf not long ago, and actually the reason that episode 2 is so good, I think, is actually it was filmed last. It was done as a reshoot because they weren't happy with the second episode. And so they had 2 weeks left over at the end, and they went, well, let's try something else. And they had this other idea, which was what they then used. And it turned out, so they'd actually got a bit more of a rapport going by the time they filmed what became episode 2. They'd actually already done 6 episodes. Yeah. So that's why it probably feels so much more punchy.
Okay, so they filmed it.
Because there's actually.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, but I mean, I never knew that until recently. I was just watching a documentary about the first season and all the difficulties they had and how hard it was to get anything done and how it nearly got cancelled like 6 times on its way through to actually getting made.
Oh my God!
There was an electrical strike. All of the people who work on the show went on strike at one point as well, so it nearly never got made. Yeah, because they were halfway through filming when everyone downed tools. So it's
flipping heck. I had a lot of problems though, innit? Yeah, I had a lot of problems. BBC had a lot of strikes at that time as well.
About Holly.
Holly.
Holly the
Holly. What can you say?
Holly the hologram.
He's
Brilliant,
on and off
character.
so much.
Brilliant character. Fantastically acted, and for that they actually got a stand-up comedian, which worked perfectly for a character where you only see their head.
Yeah.
So his sense of comic timing is excellent, and it
Power
really
Rangers
works. Because if it was just Rimmer and Lister insulting each other constantly, it wouldn't work as a show.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
You need Holly to be kind of dispassionate, but at the same time quite clearly on Lister's side. At the same time, kind of playing in the middle.
Yeah,
because we won't get to talk about him a lot until a while. But Captain Hollister.
Yeah, he appeared in obviously the first episode. Yeah.
The great Mac MacDonald.
Mhm.
So good. He's got Mac twice.
Mac McDonald.
MacDonald.
But no, a lot of the cast are very good, solid actors. Considering they're only doing a couple of scenes each, they actually managed to get a very good group of people together to do it. And then they had quite a lot of people coming back regularly throughout the first couple of seasons, like Tony Hawk's appears in loads of episodes. But he was also the before the show started. You know how they have a warm-up man?
Yeah,
that was Tony Hawk's.
Oh,
so that's the reason he got the gig, is he was doing the warm-up act. And so they went, oh, well, we can use him. Saves us money.
It's all about saving that money, that budget.
Yeah, precisely. And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
If they turn it down, you might as well flip. Love it, man. Red Dwarf was amazing.
But it's only going back and watching it that I've realised just how much Tony Hawk's did appear in like the first two series. He does voiceovers in almost every episode at some point.
Wow.
Like the advert for the cinema and the Taj Mahal restaurant is Tony Hawk's. And things like that. It's just loads and loads of...
It sounds like a skateboarder.
I knew you were going there. I could easily said that, but I didn't touch it. I easily could have said that.
Well, sometimes the classy thing is not to go for the obvious joke.
I know, that's what I'm saying, Tom.
Sorry, Ben.
I'm a Tony Hawk's fan, but I didn't touch it. I was like, nah. Too easy. Oh, yeah. That was funny as heck, bro.
I think you killed Ben.
Ben's quiet now. It's just silent.
No, I'm letting you guys talk. That's all right.
No, but you know, Cat though, like when he's gonna feed him feed him the milk, puts it on the floor.
Well, you monkeys eat off the floor.
That mate, my wife does love Cat. She said he was the best thing in it.
Oh my god!
But she did say when Craig Charles spoke, "Is that meant to be English?" It's like, yes, he's from Liverpool.
He's from Liverpool. Yeah.
It's a good accent. I like the Liverpoolian accent. It's very nice.
Okay, I'm about to say something that you guys are probably going to hate me for saying.
Go on, do it. Do it.
This is just a general comment. This is a general comment on Red Dwarf. We will come to this across the series at different points.
Okay.
It's not so much about episode 1. They always say that good science fiction comes from good science fact.
Okay.
Red Dwarf, and I love it dearly, does not. Because it messes around with its own timelines. It does so much retconning throughout even series 1 and 2. For example, the first thing you hear is that Lister was brought up by his nan. Then his dad was alive till he was 6, and he lived with his mum, then his nan. And then in later series, he was an orphan. It just they never stick to one timeline for the main characters, which is my greatest frustration with Red Dwarf.
And that's before we get in between seasons and certain seasons where stuff starts happening with cast changes and stuff. We'll get into that down the next year.
The problem, my only issue is that in order to facilitate whatever the storyline for a particular season is, it seems like Lister's and Chris and Rimmer's backstory is quite fluid, and that's my only real frustration with Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
Is that they did, and I'd kind of forgotten about it because it's such a minor thing in the greater scheme of things. It's only when I've started rewatching it I've remembered. Oh God, didn't he say he did that 2 weeks ago? Come on.
That's where the comedy's meant to make you laugh to forget about it. That's what they're
Yeah.
trying to do.
Look,
You
Red
can cover
Dwarf
up.
is one of the best comedies of all time.
It is.
I will fight anybody
Great.
who tries to say it's not. But it's just a little pet peeve, and I had to say it.
Nerd. No. Basically, but whenever you see the top 100 comedies, Red Dwarf is never on there, and it always pisses
Which
me
is
off.
a disgrace.
It's a shame.
Because
Yeah.
the fucking Golden Girls always is.
Yeah, and I'm not being rude. When shows come back, I'm looking at you, birds of prey, birds of a feather, birds of prey.
Birds of prey. What the?
Birds of a feather.
Yeah, don't put that together with that garb, please.
You know,
Is that
you know,
the new casting for Birds of a Feather?
yeah.
Birds of prey.
I would love to see them try and be birds of prey. But basically, you know what I mean? You know, these old comedies that keep coming back that are still shit when they were originally shit and stuff. And Red Dwarf never gets the pundits I think it deserves.
Nah.
I mean,
I was really happy to see the new series get SFX, which is a big sci-fi magazine in the UK, front cover, because it never happens.
yeah.
Because they always give it like a little page here, but they probably gave it, I think, a 10-page preview of Promised Land. And that makes me
They
very
did,
happy.
yeah.
About bloody time.
It
Which
deserves.
is fantastic.
Because
But
it's coming
Red-
back for the 14th season.
Yeah. But I mean,
There's
Red
already
Dwarf is, to most British people, Red Dwarf is an absolute classic. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
enjoyable and it's irreverent and it's funny. But at the heart of it is it doesn't rely on science fiction. It relies on interpersonal relationships.
That's the main
All
thing.
characters, all character based.
And
I mean, that's
also,
it's similar to what we were saying about being human. Is the characters came first and then the supernatural came later. It's almost the same with this. Yeah, they knew they were on a spaceship, but other than that, it's about the development of them as people.
also,
Yeah.
I mean, like we talk about, I've always said, you know, certain shows like Doctor Who always packs a lot into 45 minutes. Red Dwarf does that even more so in 30 minutes. It's ridiculous how much stuff it gets through in half an hour.
It's true.
And this is why I love Red Dwarf. It's so unique compared to other comedies. The science fiction thing is there, and it changes up the plot each week a little bit. It's there in the background a tiny bit, and we're in for some absolute corkers, some fantastic ideas. I'm not going to spoil them for people who don't know, because the fans, the hardcore fans that I hope that we get with this will be nodding their
We'll know it
heads.
all already, yeah.
They'd be foaming like the dog from the alternative universe. You know, yes.
But what I was going to say, the main thing when they were originally writing it was they didn't want to have aliens and stuff come into this, which is why for the first 2 or 3 seasons you don't actually see any aliens. You see parallel universes. You see going back to weird other things. I think there's lots of other stuff, but it's not until really kind of middle of season 3 with Polymorph that you see anything that's potentially alien, and that's human made.
Yeah.
So they stayed away from the cliches of science fiction and space travel, which I think is sensible.
I've also got more.
Go on.
Yeah. We can't keep this too long because this has got to be a half an hour thing at least.
Yeah, I was just about to say we probably need to wrap up.
Oh
no, but I was just
one more. Yeah, Troy, please. I leave my interesting fact for the end. Go on.
No, so basically, what I was saying is to want to get from the cliche, or to get from that cliche alien route. You know what I mean? With his sci-fi, they think of aliens straight away. You know what I mean? So that's their go-to. To keep it away, keep it on character-driven for now. Then afterwards, branch out later on down the line.
And do you know you can see Craig Charles' genitals in certain shots of this episode on the DVD?
I hadn't looked at it in that much detail, but thank you for that.
I found it on Wikipedia and I went back to watch it. Yep, you can see a little bit of hair. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
The level of detail. Interesting.
Thank you, BBC, and your high definition DVD shit, you bastards. Thanks.
And on that note, we'll speak to you next week.
Just smeg off, you fucking smeggers.
Goodbye.
Bye.